The time is just gone 20 minutes past 8 a.m. and we kick off this morning talking about the surge in kidnappings in South Africa. I've seen a tweet from Mufti Ismail Desai who says that the surge in kidnappings within our communities in South Africa highlights the immediate need to develop our own security structures to defend ourselves and to protect our communities. We must also hold the South African government responsible for the total breakdown of general security, and we've seen so much taking place in the last few weeks. And as recent as last Friday in my own area in Benoni, Maulana Tahsin, who was kidnapped. And yesterday we heard about the 11-year-old girl. And this is something of major concern because the government acting very, very slowly. We've heard Yusuf Abramji comment calling on President Cyril Ramaphosa for urgency on the matter, the South African Police Services, even getting in international involvement, the likes of the FBI because and Interpol, because we know that there are global syndicates that are operating, considering that we've seen also what has happened in Mozambique with the ransoms that have been paid. A lot have actually been paid in Dubai. So there are definitely international criminal organizations, kidnapping organizations, gangs that are operating. And we join on the line, and he's written a wonderful piece yesterday, Mohsin Suliman, who is a resident of Homestead Park in Johannesburg. Brother Mohsin, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's always welcome, and Jazakallah for your time.
Jazakallah for inviting me on your show. Assalamu alaikum to yourself and to all the listeners.
Yes, this piece that you've written, a Muslim response to the scourge of kidnappings and violence. Now, this is clear, and we've seen from the tweet by Mufti Ismail Desai, even talking about, the scourge of violence, the crime, and the looting that we've also experienced. And at the end of the day, as a Muslim ummah, talking about getting together, about uniting, to break the silent cycle of disunity and apathy amongst our communities.
Yeah, 100%. It's been a while now where we've seen so much atrocities and injustices taking place against our Muslims, and for some reason or the other, we don't respond. The only time we responded recently was during the looting in KZN and Gauteng, more so in KZN. Alhamdulillah, I admire and appreciate what the brothers in KZN did. They banded together and they protected the communities. And for Shefsin in particular, the Imam or the Alim or the community leader there, there was a video that went viral where we see him basically mentioning Badr, and we see the looters not in a far distance. And I'm sure there was a lot of fear in their hearts, but yet we use Islam and courage and use Almighty God, and we led these people. And we did everything in a legal way. We actually asked chefs to take over, and we only take action once chefs has failed, And throughout the country, during all the looting sprees that have been taking place since 2008, chefs in the beginning were always very helpful, but towards the end now, in the last 2016, 2019, they were not so helpful, and sometimes actually how the looting take place, because this problem, is multifaceted in a sense that it's sometimes race-based, sometimes it's ethnic-based, and so forth and so forth. And my business is in Jettetown, Johannesburg, and I feel so sorry for the brothers with businesses in Jewel Street. They've been totally wiped out, and this is not the first time. This has been going on and on and on. The local populace they live, we see it, they live so rough. They consume alcohol like there's no tomorrow. And then, in the middle of the month, they dry and hungry and they look for the softest targets, and because we have a lot of these foreign traders, Bangladeshis, who are quite passive in nature, they take advantage of this that situation, So, there's so much to discuss concerning this. The kidnapping is one aspect, the looting is another aspect. But just in general, we need to make it clear to society at large, to the government, and that we Muslims, don't touch us. We as Muslims, we have dignity, we have honor, we have a religion, and our Islam should come to the fore. And you'll find that our people have been fighting with each other. Our imams, our ulama have been at each other's throats. And there's so much weakness, whereas we're supposed to be, when a person sees a Muslim from far, we heard the same story of Hazrat Omar, Shaitan wouldn't walk down the same street as him, Sometimes you wonder if our iman levels are to the extent it is supposed to be, because we should not let our dignity and our rights be violated to the extent that they are currently under this government.
Well, they're clearly being violated, and this is the reason why we've seen also Mufti Ismail Desai make this point about the great need within our communities to develop our own structured security apparatus, because we cannot rely on the government, we cannot rely on the police services. And as I mentioned, even Yusuf Abramji was highly critical of the the lack of response on the part of our security apparatus.
100%. If you can recall during this July looting spree, the government throughout that weekend, because I was because I'm involved, I'm a victim, and also, I'm a community activist in the Jeppystown area. So I was involved in this matter from, I think it was Sunday night. Yeah, I can't recall exactly, but throughout the weekend, the looting started already in KZN, and it was coming over to Gauteng as well, and I was trying to communicate with various police officers and the government in general. So we were aware of what was going on the ground, but yet the response from government itself and the hierarchy was so slow and so pathetic that the president only introduced the army like a whole 2 to 3 days later, and then he introduced the army only in areas that was necessary for his protection. He introduced the army, the military, 2,500 of them, basically at the airport, the SABC, and basically at key institutions, government institutions, and key points, national key points, including probably his home and so forth and so forth. They're more interested in preserving themselves. They've all got a detail, security detail, like, beyond what is necessary. All of these government officials, and this is probably one of the reasons why they don't really care about us ordinary citizens,
Definitely. Now, the key issue is, developing our own structures within our communities, and it does require unity, unity in action, as you've written in your piece, and saying that it is only our hope, and the responsibility is on the part of everyone, imams, community leaders, lawyers, and other important role players within the communities to find these solutions, Brother Mohsin.
100%. I think the Friday khutbah is wasted. Many a time, the imams not utilize that podium to get important messages across to the communities. And our Islam is slightly, this is a bit of I wouldn't say controversial, but basically to marry the fact that we live as Muslims in a democracy, constitutional democracy, where the democracy has its own rules and laws, and our the tenets of the Quran has its own laws, and there's obviously a serious clash when it comes to matters like homosexuality and other matters. But by and large, the imams should raise these questions and bring it forth to the authorities. You know what? I'm digressing slightly here, but just to get the point across is that they should point out to the authorities and to the media and to everyone at large. You know what? We the Muslims, we don't stand for homosexuality. Our Quran and even Christianity, for the matter, doesn't stand for Christianity. So if the other religious groupings and want to be lax about what they believe in and how they practice religion, that's their prerogative. But from our perspective as Muslims, we have a set structure. We have a Quran, and we have our Sharia and so forth and so forth. And these are our rules, and we should carry our deen to the maximum that we can within the boundaries of the democracy that we live in, And if they continually violate our rights like they are doing currently, then they lose their legitimacy and their rules and regulations don't apply to us. Eventually, if the police do not assist you and you ask them to assist you, you pay your taxes, you pay your bills, you pay your dues, and you are not getting what is fair in return, then you have to take or do what is necessary to protect yourself. In fact, the numbers that were the people that lost their lives during the looting spree was plus minus I think about 300 people, and it could have been so much more if those who were defending the communities were not responsible. And yet, if you look, there's a human rights commission inquiry. I think in KZN in the last 2-3 days, and I mean they are making the victims look like the perpetrators, and the perpetrators are let off scot-free. By and large, there are not too many people who have been arrested for, you can call it an insurrection. I mean, there's so many terms you can utilize, but it was violence beyond compare. I mean, literally, two entire provinces in the country were brought to a standstill, and I mean, it's mind-boggling that it was actually allowed to happen in the first place. But yet, we haven't seen any arrests. Zuma's daughter and Zuma's son were so active on Twitter and social media, and yet nothing has happened to them. So there is a bias against in favor of certain peoples and certain race groups and certain ethnic groups, and I think it's very unfair. I truly do.
Yes, Brother Mohsin, Jazakallah for that. I know there's still so much more that we can talk about, and just talking about the hearings that are taking place. Inshallah, we will be covering that a bit later on the show this morning. But for now, we thank you. We say Jazakallah khairan to you for your time with us this morning here on Salam Media. We wish you all the best. Allah keep you safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Mohsin Suliman joining us this morning, which brings us straight on to 8:31 a.m. We come back, we look at austerity measures.